We're going to go live. Here we go.
How to push your got it. Hello.
Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert. And I'm loving the series Leaders Living Their Values, where you get to talk to super cool and amazing people. And here's an amazing person I've known for, over a decade, 12, 15 years?
I don't want to think back that long, but it seems like we're almost family.
We are family at that. And just what I love doing is just sort of throwing the ball in the air and say, Jeffrey Davis, you're super cool. Who are you?
Well, right away, you've thrown me off because you told me I was super cool. I don't think anybody's called me cool, and not too many people have in maybe 20 years. But you want to know what's going on? You know what? It's funny. I never knew with COVID, how the world was going to go for me, but it seems that helping people in transition deal with this world, this existential crisis that seems that millennials and baby boomers and everyone is going through, has kept me busier than ever before, Mitchell. And being able to help people learn how to make change, transition, adapt, that's what my whole career and my life has been about, especially leaders. And so I've kept myself busy and I've enjoyed myself in a lot of ways.
I love that. But who are you? Personal
Who am
business? Yeah. Who are you?
Well, that's interesting. I'm not Peter Sellers, so I do have a personality. I'm definitely a person. I don't think I'm that complicated. My wife says I am. I would say I'm a person who really has always wanted to help people since I was a child. Found my way through all the experiences, businesses that I've owned, and education, which is very diversified. We can get into that, to starting my consulting firm in 1985 and really working with leaders to help them get to where they want to go as well and fulfill their skills and their abilities. But me personally, besides that, same person. What you see is what you get. I'm very good at spotting politics, but I don't like to play politics. I have a very avid sense of humor, active. I'm a big believer in laughing, not crying, as an emotional relief. And I like to look at life in a very satirical way. Play a lot of sports. And I think I probably owe that to my family and my mother's health issues, or maybe she didn't want to parent too much, so she got me out of the house. But when I'm not working, I can be found either sailing, kayaking, swimming, scuba diving, skiing, biking, walking, but I get out of the house and I like to get out into the world and work and play. I have good friends who also enjoy life. So my friends are pretty, they're pretty much like me in that way. So try to keep it simple in that way. I have family, adults, and making sure my family is fine and stable and living their life too is very important to me.
Nice. And then I'm looking across the top of your screen, and there's lots of things. There's MAGE, Family Business Association, Radio Entrepreneurs, and the types of things you've done in your life. Throw out some statistics of how many different businesses or people you've served.
Well, I probably can't remember them all, but I've been told that I've owned 9 businesses in my life, and all various industries: environmental, consumer goods, food products, service businesses, software development, CRM, which I still own a CRM company, in the sports industry, real estate development. But in general, the focus of my career has always been with that top corner, MAGE. MAGE is a management consulting firm. The name comes from the Magi, the wise people who advise kings and queens to run their kingdoms more effectively. They needed advisors. Today, those kingdoms tend to be industrial and commercial nonprofit organizations that need advisors. And we try to help them to become better leaders. We've worked with over 700 organizations, so we have a lot of experience at MAGE, working with companies in transition and growth issues and dealing with the trauma of different economies. The Family Business Association, we started about 15 years ago. It's the largest nonprofit, was the largest nonprofit in Massachusetts. for the support of and the continued existence of the family-owned firm. Today, I own the FBA. I started it with a group of gentlemen way back when. And Radio Entrepreneurs has been my fourth radio venture. I started as a reporter on the Apple Business Radio Network in Canada, then the Business Radio Network that used to be out of Colorado. And then we had another radio show that we started. And then Radio Entrepreneurs has been around for 7 years, interviewed about 7,500 business leaders and thought leaders. And we've had about 1.5 million people listen to different episodes that we've had over the last 7 years. So I got a lot of exposure to people and the way they work and the way they deal with business. I always say, maybe I'm not the smartest person, but I almost have seen it all. So getting to see it all really helps.
And another one of the tags is Amazon best-selling author. I'm happy to say that this is your third edition, and you got international #1 best-selling author on this one. This was pretty cool. And you included me. Thank you.
Oh, well, there's a chapter on a guy called Mitchell Levy, and it's quite a special chapter. You really are much more than the aha guy or whatever the many things that you've done. But you had, just like everybody else in our book, I think you were able to use adversity to develop your values and your career. And a lot of people in my book, they're all values-driven people who have learned that values, in building that into your culture and your value offering in business, can really make you a more sustainable business over the long run. That if you're not values-driven, maybe you can be successful, maybe you can make money, maybe you can have successful transactions. But if you really want to be sustainable and keep a staff and employees and customers happy over the long term, you've got to be someone that people trust. And if without trust in our society, and there is a problem with trust, there is no way that a business is going to stay in business. And these people, who I respect, every one of them, they all could have gone out of business. But if it wasn't for their fortitude, their intelligence, and their values, they wouldn't have survived. That's what got them through everything.
Tell me about your values. What do you hold high for yourself?
Well, it depends on the day that you're asking me in the story I want to remember. But, I worked first of all, I was a Boy Scout as a kid. And I think as I gotten older, that had an effect on me because, in the Boy Scouts, they do teach you good values. You don't get those little badges. And, as a little boy, you believe in those things. And I would say also my mother was an idealist. She read a lot about literature and art and music and politics and adversity of people. She used to spend her middle of her nights getting up and writing letters to Amnesty International. And I think the best thing she did was she imparted onto her children an intellectual inquisitiveness and a sense of values in making the world a better place. And I think we all believe that unless you're contributing something to the world around you, taking from the world is not enough. You can't take, you have to give back. So I had it at home. I had it outside my home. I've seen a lot of people who didn't practice those values, and I didn't like them, and I didn't want to be like them as a child or as an adult. And I've tried to stay away from those people. But again, what I have found is by staying true to my personality, the playful side, the creative side, the sarcastic side, by staying true to my honesty, it's gotten me through life. And it's helped me to deal with things a lot better. So, again, I say what you see is what you get. But I think once you cross over, I like Star Wars because I think once the dark side enters people, hatred, lying, manipulation, it starts to eat you up and become you. And you don't know always, you can't differentiate between the good and the bad anymore because you've lost perspective. And as my dad used to say to me and my dad was one of my mentors, my stepfather, he used to say every night when you go to bed, Jeffrey, and he taught me how to run a family business. He goes, you need to look in the mirror and know and see reality and not be deceiving to yourself and be true to yourself and true to others. And again, as a young man, I believe those things because he said to me, and if you can't do those things, I'm firing you. And I never wanted the humiliation of being fired.
That's amazing.
So
Well,
that's just a few stories, Mitchell, to answer your question.
yeah, well, you know, it's so many cool things. You're talking about integrity, intent and commitment to do the right thing. You're talking curiosity. It's very cool the values that you've seen. Now, in the clients that you've worked with, what values have when you first meet? Is there a consistent set of values of the clients that you've allowed to be part of your business?
Well, you know, there's not always a consistent set of values. I'm hoping that's where they want to go, or that's where they are. And sometimes people get lost. And if someone's lost, you want to try, if they're motivated, you want to try to help them find their way back on the path. And I think that was an important part of my book. And that is, if you put yourself on the right path, you'll eventually get there. I like The Wizard of Oz. I like the Yellow Brick Road. And I believe that when you get on the right path, you will eventually get there. The key is for people to get on the path and know that they may not have been on the path, that they are on the path, that they're not taking the right steps on the path. And they have to be honest about it, but you also have to be brave. People are animals and they don't like change. We're all habitual, all of us. I'm not exclusive of that either. I like stability as much as anybody else. But when things are not going well, you need to make hard decisions about making change, and most people won't. I once worked with a sports psychologist. He was a very talented, I didn't work with him. We used to go out for breakfasts and lunches. And he once said to me, because he worked with high achieving stars, he once said to me, do you know why people accept mediocrity or not being excellent? And I like to play stupid. And I go, why? And he said, because that's what they know. And if they have to change to become something different to be excellent, there's a risk that they'll never get there. So sometimes mediocrity is safer than the risk. And I think that's very true. There's only a few people who constantly are willing to live in a state of recreating risk to get to a higher level. You know, there are athletes we've seen over our career. Here's stories about how they emerged. They were not expected to be great. The Michael Jordans, the Tom Bradys, they took risks probably to get to the other side. But as average people, most of us like to look at those people and not be those people. And what I try to do is show leaders and individuals that there's more of a risk for standing still, that in our world, it's not survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the adaptable. And I try to show them a path and make it easy for them to make change. And once they get on that path, I think they find life a lot easier and a lot more fulfilling.
So it's survival of the adaptable, and it's towards the good, right? But it's interesting because you said you know the Star Wars, dark side, the Force, maybe,
Right.
And the question is, how do you define somebody? How do you define for somebody who doesn't know what the good is, what that means?
Well, you're not asking me this, but when someone's broken, it's hard to fix them. And I do believe in Stephen Covey. I have also read a lot of the literature over the years. And I think, you know, he says some simple things. The gate of change opens from the inside out. And someone once asked me, can you really change people? And my answer was very simple. If they want to. If someone wants to change, it's easy to do. If someone's self-protective, resistant, narcissistic, and there's a lot of narcissists out there, it's impossible to change them. You know why you can't change a narcissist, Mitchell? You can't because they know more than you. Everything they do is right. It's always someone else's fault. So I think the key here is if people want to change, they need the right support, facilitator, and mentor. And that's not easy either. It's not hard. It's not easy to find great people to help you. I think you've seen that also in your work. And it's like the old expression one of my friends used to say to me, 50% of the graduates of Harvard Medical School graduate in the bottom of their class. And, just because somebody is a professional does not mean that they're excellent. I do like the bell curve. I think every profession is dealing with about 13% of outstanding people. And if you're going to make change, you have to find someone outstanding to help you. But it's not an easy process. I've never promoted myself as an easy coach. I tell people all the time, if you want someone to just pat you on the head, I'm the wrong person to hire.
Jeffrey, is there, besides letting people know to pick up a copy of the 24-hour turnaround, and this really is an amazing book. It is actually chock full of values and values-driven management. Is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't?
Well, there's always more that can be asked, but you make it about me. It's not really about me. And I was very worried when I wrote the book that someone would think that I wrote a book about myself. And these chapters are in the voice of these 7 people. These stories are the stories about these 7 people. I was a facilitator for these people to help them. These people are stars. And I love telling their stories even more so orally than in the book, because I had to edit the book because of my publisher. But these
I wonder
7
who that would have been. Oh, sorry, me. Yes.
Those 7 people, Karen Bressler, Joel Rabinowitz, what they had to go through to get to what they had to do, maybe with or without me, they would have done it, but their stories are unbelievable. And I think that's really the important part, that when people like the book, what they say to me is, I didn't know there were other people like me out there trying to run businesses who struggle like me. Because, most of these management books are about Fortune 500 companies. They're about, they're looking at big corporations and what are big corporations doing. These are everyday businesses that we see every day and how these people struggled. And I think their message, it really resonates with it. When I meet female leaders, they say to me, wow, I read Karen Bressler's chapter. I can't believe what happened to her. I just want to meet her. And people say to me, do you know Joe Rabinowitz? Do you know him personally? I can't believe his story about the Beatles and how he met the Beatles. And I go, yeah, he was a groupie. And that's what he did. I mean, they're all great stories. And Mitchell, your story too. Your story really, for me, was really, you can't keep a good man down. Even when the wrong people were in your life and tried to channel you in the wrong way, there was some compass inside of you that knew that that was not right, and you had to find your way to the right part of your life. And so I think that they're the heroes. That's the question you didn't ask me. I really respect these people, but I also know a lot of other people I've never written about who never wanted me to write about them, who I share their stories with so many people. I feel very fortunate to have met what I consider to be real heroes, everyday heroes.
Jeffrey, thank you. And I'm really glad I asked, because one of the attributes of being credible is, I call it spreading cred dust. It's sharing the ideas, thoughts, and actions of others, which is what your book is all about. But it's also, if you look at all the stuff you've done, it's what you've been all about. And so I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. Really appreciate that.
And I will say, my life has been a crisis almost from the day I was born. I was probably not supposed to be born. And so there were problems, and I've known crisis from the beginning. And like a lot of people in my book, crisis helped form me into the person I am today, and it helped me to deal with change. And the lessons I learned academically, through experience, but through just my own life, have helped me to go share that experience with others and help them to do the same thing. And surviving and thriving and success in this world is critical.
Oh, I agree. And so how best can people reach out to you?
Well, I think the best way is through my email, and it's the letter J, Davis, Davis, at my company, mageusa.com. That's J Davis at mageusa.com. You can find me on the web, Jeffrey S. Davis, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, lots of friends. And, you know, I'm always ready to talk to people. Don't always charge people. I always like to hear from people. If people need help, I like to hear from them. I like them to reach out to me. There's a lot of people struggling in this world, especially over the last 3-4 years. And I don't like to see people struggle.
Jeffrey, you're absolutely amazing. Listen, if you're still here, it's time to spread a little bit of cred dust. So click on the like button, share with your friends, and we'll see you at the next episode. And Jeffrey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Hey, Mitchell, it's always a pleasure. Love seeing you in person, on Zoom, any way possible. You're a great man. You've got a great family. Thank you very much, Mitchell.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's time we need to get together. It's time for a hug.
Right.
See you, everyone. Bye. All right. That was awesome. Let me hit the
I hope
stop
so.
record.